Happy Halloween, moviegoers. It's spooky season. Has all led up to this. This is another volume of the Cinema Chronicles right here on the Vick's Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the resident film critic of the Sobros Network, Brandon Vick. I don't know if you know, but I'm a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association and a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association. And I tried to really go with a spooky theme. I've got 3 movies that are all kind of scary and creepy. And then there's one that's really lame. But listen, we'll get to those. I like Halloween. I've become a bigger fan since I've gotten married because my wife loves it. And now that I have a son, we can really kind of play with it. He was a skunk last year. And I was a fox, and I want to think my wife was a deer. So we kind of did like nature animals. I don't really know. A skunk, a deer, and a fox. I'm sure that's a great trio somewhere. But this year, we are Sesame Street characters. I am Big Bird. My wife is Oscar the Grouch. And my son is Cookie Monster. And all of our suits were handmade by my wife. And they look pretty snazzy. We here in Nashville, the Nashville Zoo has a boo at the zoo. It's become a tradition since last year, and it's really cool. You go, they don't really have many animals out, but they have like carnival games. They had a Ferris wheel. They've got a little dance floor for kids. They got a trick or treat trail, picture thing that usually involves like Disney or space stuff, and they do animal shows. But it's a lot of fun, especially for the kiddos. But I lost a lot of feathers the other night, so I think I need to replace some before we go trick-or-treating tonight, which apparently they're calling for like 80% chance of rain. So not sure. Might have to get an early start, and maybe just start knocking on people's doors around lunchtime and just go ahead and get it out of the way. We probably won't get candy, but we might get like Sun Chips or a turkey sub, something like that, whatever people eat for lunch. But I haven't been able to watch a lot of spooky movies, to be honest, and that's usually like the best time. But I have managed to watch some of Paranorman. I have watched Scream. I've watched Sinister, watched Monster House, and my wife likes to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show and Little Shop of Horrors. We watched Halloween last night. So, I mean, we've done all right. We've done okay. We've watched some of the new ones, that Caddo Lake. It's on Max. It's all right. It's not too bad. It's produced by M. Night Shyamalan. I also didn't mind the new Salem's Lot movie. I haven't seen the original that's based off Stephen King book, but that is... I did not realize that was over 3 hours long, but the new one is not. It's under 2 hours, and it's okay. I mean, again, it's all right. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was a vampire flick, and the vibes and the atmosphere is pretty good. I mean, it's shallow in a lot of other things, and I'm sure it's not as good as the original, which I wanted to watch that, but I haven't been able to. So, and what else? As far as at the movies, I think we're kind of going to hit most of them today. Now, I have done a podcast, kind of a rundown of the Terrifier movies, with a focus on Terrifier 3 that now I think had a $2 million budget. It's made over $50 million. So that's a success. But we have a podcast out talking about Art the Clown, with Jesse, our buddy Jesse from Danger Zone Video. It was a really good chat. So check that out. And yeah. And we also got a lot of the Movie Review Rewind podcast actually has Monster House, which myself and the EIC Stony Keeley really enjoy. And there's also one in our buddy Sean from from 615 Film, and he's the president of the Music City Film Critics Association. But they're talking about The Lighthouse, which it would give me no better pleasure than to talk about Robert Eggers' Nosferatu today. But it's not coming out on Halloween. It's coming out on Christmas. But I know, I think quite a few of us at the Sobros Network are pretty flippin' pumped about it. But yeah, and then I've been sharing my own kind of movie review rewinds, the actual written reviews. There's Fright Night, the remake with Colin Farrell that I really enjoy. That's another one I've watched this year. But I think I've got Paranormal Activity, Halloween from 2018. But you can go on there, look, you can honestly type in scary, and I think you'll get a ton of stuff from over the years that we've been doing. I know they've been doing some scary stuff on Phone It In with Roxanne. So there's plenty of scary stuff. And I think I've counted this right. I think there's 42 new episodes of Drinking With that are just about scary movies. I know High Tension is on there. And what is it? House of a Thousand Corpses? I think that was one of the most recent ones you saw. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff. So no one can say the Sobros ain't in the spooky season feels, because we've been there. But tomorrow that'll be dead and gone. I just want to say that it's going to be dead and gone, and we're going to start listening to Christmas music. So let's get this thing started with the first movie that's up. It's a sequel with a big old grin. Get it? Okay, cool. Let's talk about it next. Smile 2. This sequel, once again written and directed by Parker Finn, is better in almost every single way than the original. And mind you, the first one wasn't that bad. I gave it a VixFlix 3 out of 5, saying that a disturbing if derivative study of trauma and guilt that's not particularly surprising or scary, but succeeds in being creepy as hell. The most gripping component is inarguably Sosie Bacon's superb portrayal of a therapist enshrouded in fear and paranoia who can't escape a ghastly grin that nightmares are made of. And while guilty of dragging on for too long, director Parker Finn uses smart and effective ways to keep us hanging on with enough tension and visual thrills to make this a worthy addition to the horror genre. That was my take on the original. Let's get to what this sequel is all about. According to Rotten Tomatoes, about to embark on a new world tour, global pop sensation Sky Riley begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. So I think Finn, the writer and director, again, expanding into this world of pop star culture that centers around fame and addiction is hugely effective. I think it ends up actually making this bigger and better as he puts us back on this wild and frightening ride. Per EW Entertainment Weekly, for you kids out there, the subject is tragic pop stars Amy Winehouse, Whitney Houston, inspired Smile 2's horrific portrait of celebrity suffering. When I started thinking about ideas early on, any of the ideas that started coming to me in the first month I was thinking about, I threw them away. If I'm coming up with these too quickly, they're too obvious, it's too expected, Parker Finn recalls. I wanted to push for something where people would be like, I can't believe this is where Smile went. Finn found inspiration through his intense research into tragic pop star tales, particularly members of the 27 Club, a group of notable figures who died at age 27, including Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Kurt Cobain. He says, certainly Amy Winehouse was on my mind, Britney Spears, of course. We did a little tiny nod in the film. They mentioned that Sky is 27, which felt appropriate to the character. Finn says, of Winehouse, whose highly publicized issues with substance abuse and overbearing associates preceded her untimely death in 2011. He goes on to say, certainly those tragic stories. I was watching everything I could, documentaries, interviews, essays, articles, even Whitney Houston. There were a lot of women I was looking at who get destroyed by this process. I didn't want to point to anyone in particular. I just wanted to take that, glean it, and filter it into this unique character. So Smile 2 is skillfully directed with Finn, showcasing that he's working at a new level since a couple of years ago with the original. I will say he's still up to his old tricks in some scenes, especially towards the finale. It does feel somewhat redundant to what we experienced in the first movie. However, the pacing has definitely improved with the same frightening atmosphere that was there before. It's also more anxiety-inducing. It's much scarier and a lot gorier. The body horror alone is unmerciful. Just like with Sosie Bacon, that was Kevin's daughter on the first one, this former Power Ranger and Disney princess, Naomi Scott, gives an utterly brilliant, intense, and committed performance, going for broke as she descends into madness. This is no doubt her best work yet, and I believe, I think Smile 2 is going to be a career-defining moment for her. I think a standing ovation is absolutely in order for Bacon with Smile and now with Scott in Smile 2, as these two leading ladies carry Finn's movies to unbelievable heights. Smile and Smile 2 wouldn't be nearly as memorable if not for them. The power in the leading lady is as clear as day, and a lot of this just they are carrying the weight of these movies, and it ends up being very rewarding for the audience. And I want to end on a fun fact. There is a young actor in this movie who has the devilish smile of a Hollywood icon, Jack Nicholson. And folks, wouldn't you know, it's his son, Ray Nicholson. He plays a small but important role in Sky's tumultuous past. I saw a couple of side-by-sides of his smile in Smile 2 and Jack's in The Shining, and that's his son. It's like Maury. He is the father. It's true. Smile 2, better sequel. I'm interested. The ending really does open up this possibility of, I think, anything goes for Smile 3, so I'm very curious on how it will be. But Smile 2, a pretty impressive improvement from Smile 1. Smile 2 gets a VixFlix rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars. One of the better scary movies of the year. And coming up next it's a rom-com and a musical and a dramedy, and it's everything in one, with also what looks like to be a Teen Wolf knockoff. I'll tell you about it next. This one you might have heard of, or you might not, but this one is called Your Monster. And per Rotten Tomatoes, Your Monster tells the story of the soft-spoken actor Laura Franco, played by Melissa Barrera, who is dumped by her longtime boyfriend, Edmund Donovan, while recovering from surgery and retreats to her childhood home to recover. With her future looking bleak, insult is added to injury when Laura discovers her ex is staging a musical that she helped him develop. But out of these gut-wrenching life changes emerges a monster, played by Tommy Dewey, with whom she finds a connection, encouraging Laura to follow her dreams, open her heart, and fall in love with her inner rage. I say Teen Wolf knockoff because the monster is more of a beast, or like a teen wolf. I know where the title comes from, and I'm not going to ruin it for you because it's actually mentioned in the movie, but it did. The monster did remind me of and not the Michael J. Fox one. I think maybe the Jason Bateman Teen Wolf. But this is via IndieWire. This is the IndieWire review of Your Monster by Kate Erblin. I think she's a pirate because I think that's how you say it. But in her review, she says filmmaker Caroline Lindy makes her feature directorial debut with Your Monster, but it's a story she's told before, both in life. Lindy herself went through many of Laura's same travels, that's right, I can read, including the cancer diagnosis and treatment and the douchebag boyfriend who dumped her during the ordeal. And then she says, good for her for finding the wherewithal to spin all of that into art. And on screen, Your Monster is actually an expansion from Lindy's 2020 short of the same name, which also starred Dewey as the monster. To me, Lindy, again, directorial debut, crafts her Beauty and the Beast fairy tale within many genres. As I said, kind of leading up to this, rom-com, horror, drama, musical, but yet never really knows which one it truly wants to be. Perhaps it wants to be, all of the above, but in its attempt to do so, it lacks any sort of identity, while also watering down this alluring personality that really does shine in the beginning of Your Monster. But as the movie becomes more and more uneven, the humor doesn't always hit, and the darker elements that they kind of flirt with, they fall flat. So by the time we get to the finale, there's not a strong enough bite to leave a memorable mark. Personally, I think the rom-com part is wonderfully whimsical and also most effective, which is why I wish Lindy would have kind of leaned more into that, because Melissa Barrera, who have said she's from the new Scream movies and most recently in Abigail, she's wonderful and does her best to kind of slide back and forth from one genre to the next as her character embraces her own monstrous side after suppressing her emotions for so damn long for everyone else except for her. And Tommy Dewey, who he is pretty charming as her monster, who empowers her to go after what she wants and let no one stand in her way. So Barrera and Dewey work pretty well together on screen. And Your Monster, I mean, it clearly shows great promise in Lindy, but I think this is a case where she bites off more than she can chew. And I think this really tends to happen a lot when you are trying to adapt a short film into a full-length one. I think there's a lot that's added, but it just feels unnecessary. She has something rather unique with the story that is fantastical and doesn't take itself too seriously. It does have a ton of heart and a cast that's totally game and terrific production design. Unfortunately, there's not one specific genre that's able to take the reins and successfully guide the others. It doesn't mean that it's still not fun to watch, but the movie does begin to brawl with itself, and we the audience partially pay for it. I was reading a review from Bloody Disgusting. This is by Megan Navarro, and I really liked how she summed it up, and I think this is this resonated with me, so I wanted to end with it. Talking about Your Monster, it results in a charming enough first effort that becomes bogged down by a disjointed approach to its central conceit. Instead of one cohesive horror dramedy, it winds up split between two warring halves: a sweet, dark fantasy romance and a horror story of isolation and the toll it takes. There is, as I said, that it shows great promise. It just can't juggle them all. and it becomes almost like it is two different movies with all these genres battling for the spotlight, and it dampens the experience a bit. But I'm still going to give your monster a VixFlix rating of 2.5 out of 5 because I think it's good enough, it's promising enough, it's charming enough, especially around this time of year. I think it's something that people can kind of enjoy without, again, taking it too seriously. And coming up next, Tom Hardy is Eddie Brock, and boy, are we going to symbiote all over this joint. Next. Oh, it's Venom and the Last Dance. So, here's the thing. Let's not pretend that these Venom movies are some sort of fantastic, thrilling, emotional, and like deep comic book flicks. They aren't, and they never have been. But here's the thing. I think, or I believe, that Tom Hardy and I'm just going to say everyone else that's involved probably knows this too. In my reviews of Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, which is on SoBrosNetwork.com, listen, I use words like cuckoo and self-aware and absurd. And listen, they're used appropriately. I think that the previous two have been entertaining enough, but what once was, I think, in any definition as dumb fun is now just dumb with The Last Dance. Speaking of dumb, I want to take you back towards the beginning of 2024 when the title of the third Venom movie had been revealed. This is Sony is deeply unserious, calling Venom 3 Venom the Last Dance. And this is by our very own Stoney Keeley. In it says, "What a stupid idea. This is borderline laughable. It's like they're not even trying anymore. Venom the Last Dance sounds like a skit from SNL. Of course, the first thing that the internet's going to do is bring up the Michael Jordan doc. Twitter was flooded with MJ memes yesterday, and it was awesome for those of us who love watching people do dumb shit and get reamed for it. But this feels so lazy. What was that creative meeting like? The Last Dance had to have been the first thing someone brought up, and the rest of the team was just like, yeah, that's it. That's the one. That'll do. Unless Michael Jordan and or literal dancing is involved, I just don't think the decision is very inspired, and it certainly doesn't make me feel better about seeing this movie in October." Well, let me tell you something, buddy. There is dancing in this movie. Barely, and it's dumb. So that was written back in March, and I'm here to tell not only Stoney, but everyone else that it's October, and for you and all these other fine folks listening, I am not going to make you feel any better about seeing this. Per Rotten Tomatoes, in Venom the Last Dance, Tom Hardy returns as Venom, one of Marvel's greatest and most complex characters for the final film in the trilogy. Eddie and Venom are on the run, hunted by both of their worlds. With the net closing in, the duo are forced into a devastating decision that will bring the curtains down on Venom and Eddie's Last Dance. This is co-starring Juno Temple, Reese Ifans, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and here's the thing, and this is for all these Venom movies, the Eddie Brock and Venom bromance is what keeps us coming back for more. But in this one, it flames out big time to close out this trilogy that unashamedly adores the absurd, yet is incapable of truly committing to the emotional turmoil that the delightful Tom Hardy withstands. There's certainly a complex character somewhere deep inside, but no one of these movies, and especially The Last Dance, have any interest in truly digging into within this trilogy, and this yeah, and the third one doesn't even pretend to try. This latest and maybe the last entry not only feels tame in comparison to the other two, but is completely missing the humor that Venom and Let There Be Carnage knew they couldn't live without. The one big advantage the Venom movies have is this ability to poke fun at itself and have us laughing with it and not at it. However, you're lucky, honest to God, to get a chuckle with this one. However, I think the most unforgivable part of it all is writer-director Kelly Marcel, who was the screenwriter on all the Venom movies, and that's not really something to brag about, but she doesn't let Brock and Venom dance in their tomfoolery. It's just boring symbiote pandemonium that's meandering, messy, and it doesn't even make any sense. Without a doubt, the odd couple buddy comedy of Eddie and Venom is the heart and soul of these movies, and I think that's why it's been able to feel somewhat satisfying, all things considered. But The Last Dance practically throws it all away, and dare I say, tries to be serious now that the symbiote god Noel wants to be set free. And then The Last Dance wants to turn up the emotion at the end. I don't think so. Not after what I just sat through. The stakes never feel that high. Not once. I have to tell you, my mind was blown after reading some of these early reactions to The Last Dance, because there's no way we were watching the same movie. And with y'all's permission, I would like to read some of these. So may I share? Thanks. Here's one. So much heart, so much amazing action, and a brutal finale that had me in tears. I have no idea where this amazing action came from, but more importantly, if what I saw brought you to tears, I'm going to say you probably cried on the other Venom movies too, and you shouldn't have. Here's another one. Tom Hardy was born to be Venom. That I agree with. I laughed so much and cried during Venom, The Last Dance. Again, don't know how people got so involved emotionally, and definitely hardly anything that involves humor is actually done right. Another one, the movie is pretty gory. This is PG-13, so I don't know. I think their definition of gory isn't, I want to say maybe what mine is, but I don't even know what scene was gory. So this person should go see those Terrifier movies, and I guarantee you they'll poop and crap all over the place if they want to see gory. Super entertaining, has tons of action sequences. It doesn't. Features a wacky road trip that is just 10 out of 10, but also made me cry and want to hug. Let me tell you, I've already talked about most of this stuff. Let me tell you about this wacky road trip. It starts in Mexico. They want to go to New York. They get to Vegas, and that's it. That's your road trip. Mexico to Vegas. That's it. I don't know where this wacky road trip that's a 10 out of 10 came from. And this last one, don't ask me how or why, but Venom The Last Dance somehow has all the feels and more heart than any movie I've seen this year. Have you only seen one movie this year, sir? Has all the feels and more heart than any movie I've seen this year. I I have no idea. I don't know what to say. And I know what you're thinking, Brandon, everyone's welcome to their opinion. You're right, and I'm sharing those with you, but just so you know, they are wrong. Oh, okay, sorry. I need to calm down. You're being too... Look, we've come to know what to expect from these Venom movies. Expectations shouldn't be high to begin with. We are talking about the Sony movies, and let's be honest, out of all of them, of these comic book ones that Sony does, I want to say probably the first Venom has probably been the best one. But so some of these things in The Last Dance is not that surprising. But there's some of these main things that worked in its favor seem to have disappeared from this final outing, and that right there is downright disappointing. We love Tom Hardy, right? I mean, listen, from Bronson to the underrated The Drop, The Dark Knight Rises, to Lawless and The Revenant, and most recently The Bike Riders. He's an exceptional talent, and he is a great Eddie Brock Venom. But I gotta say, after seeing The Last Dance, I'm really left with a feeling of what could have been. I think Venom, the first one, had that right kind of energy where, again, it's an origin story kind of thing, and they really could have done something, I think, wild, but also great. And it's dropped off ever since, starting with Let There Be Carnage, and now we're here at The Last Dance. Back to Hardy. The man has been heavily involved in Venom since the beginning. He's become a producer on it. He has a story credit for this one and the Carnage one. So he cares, right? I mean, I know he does. But WTF, Tom? This is how he wanted Eddie and Venom to go out? I'm probably 80% sure he's not done with this character. But this Venom trilogy ends on a really lame note. Venom: The Last Dance gets a VixFlix rating of 1.5 out of 5 stars. Sorry, not sorry. That is it. That is the Halloween edition of the Cinema Chronicles on the VixFlix podcast. Hey, listen, don't forget. I have to make sure I say this right because I don't want anybody to yell at me. Be sure to check out all of our work at SoBrosNetwork.com. Again, Movie Review Rewind, spooky season. I've got written reviews on there. We've got the Movie Review Rewind podcast of Monster House and The Lighthouse, Terrifier podcast. Lots of stuff on there for the spooky season and the however many hours we have left of Halloween. Be sure to subscribe to the VixFlix podcast on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify or wherever you take in your shows. Give us a rating and review whenever you have a moment. That's how we get better, and we always want to be better for you guys. Happy Halloween. Enjoy it. And until the next volume, just go see a damn movie. Oh.